My name is Barbara Stauss and I'm the photo editor of Mare magazine. This is a German publication concerned with the oceans. Every topic has something to do with the sea. I'm also the photo editor of CPN magazine, and there of course we look at a whole range of photography and also from different fields. Editor's choice was something very different from my daily business. First of all, because I had to choose singular images out of any context. I don't really look for the perfect image because sometimes the perfect image is not so interesting because it keeps you too much in the image itself, and I rather like when an image allows me to start my imagination going. This picture by Boza Ivanovic from the US really stood out for me. He did a very unusual thing here. He portrayed an ape, but he excludes the most important part, which is the eyes. Your eye immediately looks at the teeth of this chimpanzee, and the next way your eyes go down to the hands, which are folded up with the arms. He kind of embraces himself. And what happens is, with this reduction of light and color, it makes you hear this ape scream, because everything else is blocked out for your vision and you hear it. I really, really like this picture. I like this image by C.C. Brooks from the States because I have the feeling they know that they're being photographed, and that makes it very provocative. I think it shows just as much of her leg. He holds up her leg, and as much of her tongue to make it really look very sexy. And also I really like it because of all the lines which are controversial in this image. So you see her bikini stripes and then the stripes in the back going vertical and horizontal. We have his tattoo, which is very organic and correspond then with her hair, which has these curls and stripes of blonde and darkish. She is slightly on top of him, which is also quite unusual because usually you have the man being taller than the girl. So, and he has the short hair versus her long hair. It works a lot because of this vice versa thing. And in the middle having this kiss. It's a really good picture. This image by Hernan Zenteno from Argentina works really well with this red, vivid background, looking a bit like opera background on stage. The silhouettes also look like a bit, for me, a chorus in the opera, raising up their arms, obviously celebrating something. But the image probably would have stayed rather boring if not on the left side we would see this firecracker giving light to these men's faces, and even we can see details in their faces which makes the image. In this picture by Jesper Norgert Sorensen from Denmark, the humor comes out of the fact that this is a scene after something went wrong somehow. It's a Sunday afternoon and there was a fair, and I think the weather wasn't as great as expected, and probably not as many people as expected came to the event. But here we have the winner of it, but we don't even know who is presenting who here. Are these two people presenting the cow, or is the cow presenting these two people? The funny thing is that they all wear the same shoes, that's for sure. This is the first of two images I've chosen by Massimo Cristaldi from Italy. Here I particularly like that industrial landscape and the chimneys are rather diverse, and they are not even maybe chimneys, but they appear to be chimneys because of the birds which are flying over them and pretending that they are exhausts from these chimneys. So it works beautifully graphically, I think. The second image by Cristaldi shows again a very graphical scene. The woman is sitting on a bench and looking at the outside as if she would sit in a museum looking at the painting. The window is framing the scene and dividing the scene with a frame. The other thing which is interesting is that we, as the people looking at the picture, see her in the scene, and she is again framed and divided by the sunlight which backs up into the scene and continues the lines and the pattern from the window inside the room. The image wouldn't be as powerful if there would not be the woman on the left side sitting there and breaking that symmetry. This image by Nigel James Hughes from the UK gives us the view to a beautiful scenery, and it's absolutely perfectly composed. It's beautiful, diverse from the sky, which gives us sunlight and the backlight to the clouds. The middle part is in haze, and the foreground, although it's dark, you see all the structures of the stones and the little trees. But the picture, of course, wouldn't be as good without the dynamic which is added by the man and the dog running over the stones in this silent landscape. This image by Robert Godding from the Netherlands brings us into a scene in a slaughterhouse, apparently. I was really wondering immediately what this little girl in the middle of all these men, women, motorcycle, bones, fat, blood is doing. And then I was even asking myself if this is a setup or why she's wearing a t-shirt on top of that which says no fear. And then of course this knife in her hands, and nobody is paying attention to her. She's standing there with this knife, everybody seems busy, and she's looking at us. I'm scared here, but she isn't apparently, and she has a knife in her hand. It's a very disturbing image. This image from Stefano Pisarelli from Italy, for me, shows a whole story. The white is leading your eye, and we start looking at the white color on the left side, and our view goes over his writing notes on to the next bench, to the next white color. We see the back, and then in the next step our eye wanders up to the blackboard. Our eye wanders through this image like a half moon, and therefore this image has 3 different layers, and it's graphically absolutely perfect because it works with only 3 colors. It works with white, with black, and with blue. I have chosen this image of Vitaly Kutnichenko from Ukraine because I find he captured a very interesting scene. Although the animal is cut in half and somehow put together, so you see the back of the animal on the right side of the image and the head of the animal on the left side of the image. This, for me, gives the impression as if this image would repeat itself 100 times, and I can even hear their galloping. In the middle, in this blank space, we see the tails going up and down with a lot of power and speed. And on the left side, we can hear them snort, and we see the muscles on the right side. So I get a really good sense of this scene. It's almost for me a scene taken out of a film. My favorite way of receiving work is when somebody quickly calls me and tells me what they want to do or what they want to show me. I ask them to put together a PDF and a short synopsis. Or if they don't even have the photos yet, they can just send me a synopsis of what they intend to do. An edit shouldn't be too tight. I like large edits. Sometimes a not so good image is very important in an edit, because when I'm interested, I with joy look at 60, 80 images, and if I'm not interested, I can stop after 10. I really think that young photographers, who I think are so many good ones these days, that they should start thinking more about stories or ideas and not just throw themselves into the world and kind of wandering around and doing personal projects or a personal portrait of Naples or Havana. And so coming a little bit away from the thought of street photography, but really try to find stories or maybe read about the history of a place and know more about what they photograph, know a little bit more of the background, and makes it more interesting then also for the editors.